A retired pastor in North Carolina tells the following story. It began with a telephone call and a command. "I want you to come over right away. I have something to say to you." The unmistakable voice at the other end of the phone belonged to an eccentric older woman in the congregation named Mary Marshall. Usually the young preacher enjoyed sparring with Mary, but on this day he faced a particularly heavy workload. Nonetheless, Mary Marshall insisted that he come over right away, so the young preacher went. The drive across town gave him a chance to muse about what possible offense might have occasioned the summons, just which bone in particular she was going to pick with him, but he had no idea. When he arrived at her house, she met him on the front porch and escorted him into her living room and pointed him to an uncomfortable love seat. Now, without the usual pleasantries, she began to tell him about a trip that she and her late husband had taken to Europe some 20 years earlier. And Mary was the kind of person who missed no details and then added her own embellishments. So 20 minutes later, the young preacher still had no idea why she had called him there. But then she said, "The Alps." "The what?" he asked. "The Alps. They were my favorite part of Europe. Such magnificent mountains. I want to tell you something very interesting about the Alps. That's why I called you here today." "You called me to talk about the Alps?" he asked. Even for a young Presbyterian pastor with one foot in Geneva, he thought it was an odd topic for such urgency. "Did you know," she said, "that in the Alps there are a number of little cabins scattered all over, constructed as places of refuge for skiers and hikers. They are very plain, but very snug. Each one has a fireplace, and all one has to do upon entering a cabin is to strike a match to light the fire, which is already cut and set. Someone else has chopped the wood, so the weary traveler can enjoy the benefit of the warm fire." "Well, that's very interesting," the young preacher said, "but I'm not finished," she said. "This morning, when I was thinking about the trip, about those cabins in the Alps, it dawned on me that all my life I've been burning wood that other people have chopped for me. And I'm not sure I ever thought to say so much as thank you. Now I think it is time I started chopping wood for somebody else. That's what I aim to do, and I wanted you to know." The young preacher recalls that in the grand scheme of things, that visit wasn't all that urgent, but he wouldn't have missed that moment of Mary Marshall's epiphany for all the world. As she approached her 80th birthday, she had a profound sense of her indebtedness to others. I think that's why King David, in the passage from Chronicles, that's why he does not want to give a gift that cost him nothing. His entire life, David has been the beneficiary of grace that he had not earned. He was a teenage shepherd, the youngest of his father's sons, when out of nowhere an old prophet named Samuel showed up and anointed him the future king of Israel. When David faced the giant Goliath, all he had was a sling and 5 stones, and he only needed the first one because he also had the grace of God, and that was all he had. Everything that has come to David has come by grace. And David, too, realizes that he has spent a lifetime of burning wood that other people have chopped. David really wanted to build a temple for the Lord. In the book of 1 Samuel, we hear David musing that it's not fair that he should live in a palace that is lined with cedar from Lebanon, while the worship of God still takes place in a tent, the tabernacle. God tells David that he will not be the one to build a temple. That opportunity will fall to his son and successor. But David did have that role in determining where the future temple would be built. It was going to be built on the threshing floor of Ornan, the Jebusite. So when it's time to make a burnt offering to the Lord, David does not want to make an offering that will cost him nothing. Ornan offers to give him the threshing floor for free. After all, David is the king. He could simply seize the land and call it eminent domain. No one would blink an eye, because that's what kings do, isn't it? They take land, eminent domain, and it's theirs. But David believed that a sacrifice that wasn't sacrificial wasn't really a sacrifice. David did not want to make an offering that cost him nothing. When David does make the sacrifice on Ornan's threshing floor, there is a fire from heaven indicating divine approval for David's sacrifice. And later, when Solomon's temple is completed, fire from heaven will also kindle the first sacrifice in the temple itself. When the temple was consecrated, the Ark of the Covenant was placed in the Holy of Holies inside the temple. It was a tangible sign of the Lord's presence, and it was a reminder of the wilderness wanderings, all those years when the Ark of the Covenant traveled with the people and resided in a temporary tent. In the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, we find these remarkable words to the Israelites who had been wandering. When the Lord your God has brought you into the land that he swore to your ancestors, to Abraham and Sarah, to Isaac and Rebekah, to Jacob, Leah, and Rachel, to give you a land with fine, large cities that you did not build, houses filled with all sorts of goods that you did not fill, hewn cisterns that you did not hew, vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant. And when you have eaten your fill, take care that you do not forget the Lord, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. Now, these words are good for us to hear as well, because we remember all those saints who planted this vineyard, who helped build this house, who have, by their sacrifice, made it possible for us to enjoy the ministry that Covenant Presbyterian Church affords us. And we stand on the verge of important commitments that will make this church's future for the next year and years ahead. We all live as heirs of those who came before us, and we're indebted to the faithful saints who have dreamed and planted and who gave sacrificially of themselves. Now, some of you are here today have been a part of the legacy of Covenant Presbyterian Church for many years. Some of you have more recently joined us. But either here or somewhere else, you know what it means to grow and develop your capabilities. You know what it means to benefit from the work that others have done and the way that others have encouraged you. Not one of us is completely self-made. We all drank from wells we didn't dig. We all burn wood we didn't chop. In the words of retired Presbyterian pastor Bob Dunham, and Bob is the one from whom I learned the story of Mary Marshall, one of the most important ministries of the church is the ministry of remembering, the task of reminding the faith community of God's providential care and of calling us to live lives of gravity. And so in our day, the church must work diligently to remind all of us of the wells others have dug for us, of our interdependence and our need for community, of our need for grace. The late Bill Coffin once said, "We not only inherit the earth from our parents, we also borrow it from our children." It is our time to hew cisterns and plant vineyards and build buildings for the sake of those who will come after us. And when it comes to the amount of time that we can offer to the church, some of us are in a position to offer more time than others. Many are retired and still in very good health and can attend church meetings morning, noon, and night, can volunteer at the church a lot. Others are balancing multiple jobs with kids still at home. We're in different places, and whatever place we're in, we can offer what we have. And we're in different places financially as well. I remember a story someone told me in a former church I served. This person had been a member of the church's stewardship and finance committee for many years. And one year he lost his job in a round of corporate downsizing. And he had done his best through the years to give a full tithe, 10% of his income. But with his recent job loss, he realized he would have to significantly reduce the amount of money he could give. And a woman on the committee, knowing that this man had recently lost his job, told him that she was going to increase her pledge by the same amount that he would have to decrease his. And that gift brought him to tears. And he would often tear up again with tears of gratitude whenever he would tell that story years later. And as Mary Marshall explained to the young preacher, the only requirement for spending a night in one of those cabins in the Alps was that before leaving, the skier or hiker was asked to chop some wood and set a fire for the next person who would use the cabin. All my life, she said, I've been burning wood that other people have chopped for me. There are so many people who have built fires for me. Now I think it's time I started chopping wood and building fires for someone else. She sat silently for a moment and then said, one more thing, I'm almost 80 years old, but I reckon it's never too late to start. All glory and praise be to our God. Amen.